I always invest my own money in companies that I create. I don't believe in the whole thing of just using other people's money. I don't think that's right. I'm not going to ask other people to invest in something if I'm not prepared to do so myself. Starting a business is not for everyone. Starting a business, I'd say, number one is have a high pain threshold. Really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. It's very important to like the people you work with. Otherwise, your job is going to be quite miserable. We're already cyborgs. Your phone and your computer are extensions of you, but the interface is through finger movements or speech, which are very slow. If we drive down the cost of transportation in space, we can do great things. There have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? If the future does not include being out there among the stars, and being a multi-planet species, I find that incredibly depressing. I will never be happy without having someone. Going to sleep alone kills me. I don't create companies for the sake of creating companies, but to get things done. I think we have a duty to maintain the light of consciousness to make sure it continues into the future. The reality is gas prices should be much more expensive than they are because we're not incorporating the true damage to the environment and the hidden costs of mining oil and transporting it to the US. Whenever you have an unpriced externality, you have a bit of a market failure, to the degree that eternality remains unpriced. I do love email. Wherever possible, I try to communicate asynchronously. I'm really good at email. When Henry Ford made cheap, reliable cars, people said, "Nah, what's wrong with a horse?" That was a huge bet he made, and it worked. When I was a child, there's one thing I said: I never want to be alone. That's what I would say. I don't want to be alone. I say something, and then it usually happens. Maybe not on schedule, but it usually happens. If I'm not in love, if I'm not with a long-term companion, I cannot be happy. I think we are at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. If humanity doesn't land on Mars in my lifetime, I would be very disappointed. Tesla is here to stay and keep fighting for the electric car revolution. We can't have, like, willy-nilly proliferation of fake news. That's crazy. You can't have more types of fake news than real news. That's allowing public deception to go unchecked. That's crazy. I'm interested in things that change the world or that affect the future, and wondrous, new technology where you see it, and you're like, wow, how did that even happen? How is that possible? There's a silly notion that failure's not an option at NASA. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. If you're entering anything where there's an existing marketplace, against large, entrenched competitors, then your product or service needs to be much better than theirs. It can't be a little bit better, because then you put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. You're always going to buy the trusted brand unless there's a big difference. The factory is the machine that builds the machine. If you go back a few hundred years, what we take for granted today would seem like magic, being able to talk to people over long distances, to transmit images, flying, accessing vast amounts of data like an oracle. These are all things that would have been considered magic a few hundred years ago. I think life on Earth must be about more than just solving problems. It's got to be something inspiring, even if it is vicarious.